Welcome to Illinois, the land of corn. We grow over 12 million acres of corn in our state. Today we're going to visit 3 different farms that all grow corn, but not the same kind of corn. We will visit a farm that grows popcorn, one that grows sweet corn, and one that grows field corn. There are many different varieties or types of corn, but they all grow in the same manner. They all start out from a seed. Corn is a monocot, which means that only one leaf will emerge from the seed. They all have roots and grow a tall stalk. They are all pollinated in the same way too. A tassel, the male part of the plant, emerges at the top of the plant in about July. The pollen falls from the tassel to the sticky silks during the summer. The plants need wind and rain to help the pollen move from the top of the plant to the silks, which are about halfway down the stalk. Each pollinated silk will turn into a kernel of corn. The cob is actually the flower of the plant, and the kernels are the seed of the plant. Let's get going on our tour and learn more from the farmers who grow this amazing plant. Today we're stopping at Edwards Apple Orchard West, and we're visiting with Kristen Edwards. But we're not going to learn about the apples today. We're going to learn about some other crops that they plant here on their farm. And one of those things is popcorn. We're standing next to a popcorn field in about the middle of July. Now you may notice that it's not really tall yet. And that's because popcorn doesn't grow as tall as other types of corn. So, Kristen, when did you guys plant this corn?
We planted it about when you see farmers planting their other corn, so like early to mid-May.
Okay. And so this is almost 2 months and it's still not real tall. Can you show us about how tall you think it'll be when at its peak?
At its peak, it should be about 4 to 5 feet tall, so it comes up to about my head. That's where it will be.
All right. You mentioned also that you use a special machine to plant your corn. There's only 2 rows, but they're super long rows.
Yes.
So fortunately, you didn't have to do that by hand. Can you tell us a little bit about the machine that you used?
Yeah, it's an old type of 4-row corn planter, and we have somebody sit on the corn planter, and they put seeds in a funnel, and it plants them in the ground floor. So then we don't have to walk and do it by hand.
Very,
cool.
Very innovative. That sounds like a good plan. So now popcorn is kind of unique. The ears, when they get harvested, are not as big as we might think of as a sweet corn or a field corn. So how do you harvest it?
We have to come through and pick it all by hand. We don't have any fancy machines to pick popcorn, so we just come and take it off the stalk by hand and put it in a bag and carry it into the barn.
And is that popcorn ready to be used right away?
No, we have to make sure that the popcorn is all the way dried out. Otherwise, it won't pop it when you put it in the microwave.
Oh, interesting. So how long does that process take?
A couple months for sure. We let it dry all the way on the stalk, and then we'll pick it and let it dry some more until it is completely dry. But for us, we wait until the following fall to sell it to the customer.
Oh, interesting. So now I think that I've heard that it's actually the water in the popcorn that makes the popcorn pop. But it sounds like if there's too much water in the popcorn, then that's a problem too.
Yes, it is. It wouldn't work.
So when I go to the grocery store, there's different kinds of popcorn. What kind of popcorn are you folks growing?
We grow white popcorn.
And I think there's other types too. There's maybe some red or yellow popcorn also.
Yeah, there's also red and yellow popcorn that I know of, and there might be some other ones out there too.
So you also mentioned that because it is a food product, you're not allowed to use a lot of herbicides and things. So keeping the weeds down is probably takes some manpower to do that also.
Yeah, it does. We're either pulling the weeds or coming out with hose and taking care of them that way.
Right, because if there's too many weeds, then the corn's not going to grow very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. We took a second trip back to Edwards Orchard West today, and we're visiting again with Kristen Edwards, and we're standing back at that popcorn, and it's a lot taller than the last time we were here.
Yes, it is.
Just like all the corn that you might see as you're driving through the area, it now has tassels on it and it has ears on it. So, Kristen, I know we just picked a small ear here this morning. So, can you tell us a little bit about what happened since the last time we were here? What happened with the plant?
So the plant got a lot bigger, obviously, and then these ears started to sprout, about 1 ear per stalk. Sometimes there's 2 if we're lucky, but and then they start to develop. So you can see the little kernels of corn here. It's not quite ready yet, so this one was picked too early, but come back in a month or so and they should be ready to be picked, and there you have it, popcorn.
Now, yes, the moisture in the popcorn is the big deal,
yes,
because that's what makes the popcorn pop. A lot of the students think that, well, you miraculously put it in the microwave and it comes out as popcorn.
Right.
But we need that secret ingredient of the water inside of the kernel that needs to get hot enough and basically explodes, right?
Right, yeah. Explodes, and that little bit of water makes the kernel explode into popcorn.
Right. Now, when you sell your popcorn, do you sell it as the whole ear, or do you take it off of the ear to sell it?
We sell it as the whole ear, just because, like, what most people don't realize, that popcorn grows as corn on an ear. So it's kind of a cool way to see how it really grows.
And they can pop it right off the ear then.
Yep, they can.
That's very exciting. I'm sure that's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Is that something that they can put in the microwave then? Is that how they do it?
Put it straight in the microwave. We tell people to put it in a brown paper lunch bag, coat it with a little butter, a little salt, and put it in there until you hear the popping slow down. Not necessarily till it stops, because then you're going to have burnt popcorn. But yep.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
Great. Well, our students are going to be studying about popcorn, field corn, and sweet corn this fall. And so it'll be interesting to see all the different farmers involved in the different kinds of corn and how different they all look. So thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming out.
Well, we took a truck ride out to a sweet corn field, and there's about 20 acres of sweet corn here, but they aren't all the same size, and they weren't all planted at the same time. We're standing right now in some of the tallest sweet corn. So when did you plant this stuff, Jonathan?
So this field was planted the 3rd week of April. And then we figure that we try to plant one planting each week after that, till about the middle to 3rd week of July.
So if you plant it in the 3rd week of July, when is that corn ripe?
So that corn we try to pick around the second week of October.
Wow, we're all thinking about fall festivals by that time. When will this corn be ripe?
So this corn will be ripe the 3rd to 4th week of July. This is our first sweet corn that we get on the market. It's actually a really short growing corn, so we call this a 67-day corn. So it takes 67 days from the time that it pops above the soil to the time that we harvest the corn crop.
Interesting. Well, we definitely need to come back to take a closer look at that in a couple of months. So we're back at Van Laar's Fruit Farm in the middle of August, and they're picking sweet corn today. So Jonathan, you've got quite a crew out here. Tell me what they're doing.
So we are picking 8 rows at one time. They're going through the rows and putting the corn on a yellow conveyor belt. And then the conveyor belt will go behind the tractor and dump it into this bin back here. The bin holds about 65 to 70 dozen, and we can fill that up in about 10 minutes.
Wow, that seems like a pretty efficient operation. Now, I know on days when you're planning to go to big markets, you pick a lot of sweet corn, and last Friday was a big day. How much did you pick Friday?
Friday we picked 1,100 dozen. We tend to pick about 1,800 to 2,000 dozen a week.
That's amazing. Our last stop on our corn tour is at a field corn farm, and I'm with John Cleland from Cape Breton, Illinois. John, thanks for having us out today. We're standing by some mighty tall corn today. So tell us a little bit more about this corn.
This is field corn, and It's used to feed livestock. Some of the corn goes for ethanol, and then the byproducts go to livestock. And it also goes to the food market where you make cornmeal and corn flakes and corn oil products.
Awesome. I hear that when we drive around the countryside, this is the kind of corn that we primarily see. Is that correct?
Yes, by far the most acres are field corn.
So when we drive by, it isn't all corn we can just jump out of the car and eat then. So this corn is very tall. Is this about normal for this kind of corn? Because we've seen some other types of corn that is nearly this tall.
This is taller than average this year.
So the weather has a lot to do with how tall the corn gets then.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I know we're here in the early September, and pretty soon fall is going to be around the corner. Tell us a little bit about how this corn will be harvested.
We come in about a month, and with a machine called a combine, and it picks off the ear, and then it shells the kernel off of the cob and puts it in the corn bin and the combine, and then we unload it into a wagon and haul it either to the bin or to the grain elevator at town.
Okay. And how do you know when it's time to harvest this corn?
We'll take a sample of the corn, of the kernels, and we'll test them with a moisture tester. And when it gets around somewhere between 20 and 25%, we'll harvest the corn.
20 and 25%. Now, can you sell it directly at that point, or does it need to even be drier than that? Because I saw you've got some grain bins where I assume the grain is stored for a while.
You can take it and dry it before you put it in the bins, but if you're going to store it, you want to dry it down to about 14 or 15% moisture.
Otherwise it will spoil or something?
Yes, it will spoil.
Okay. Now, I've also read that sometimes we call this kind of corn dent corn. Where does it get that name?
When the crop gets mature, the kernels have a dent on the end of the kernels, if you can see that. And so it's called dent corn because that's when it's mature.
Now, if I were to take a bite of this corn, would it be sweet and tasty? Would I enjoy it?
No, if you wanted to take a bite, you'd want to do that when it was younger, and the kernels were small and white, and then there's some sugar in it. When it gets to this stage, it turns to a starch in there, and it's not tasty or easy to bite into. It gets hard after it gets mature.
Okay, so our friends that we visited who harvested sweet corn, they measure everything that they do in dozens of ears. How does a field corn farmer measure your crop?
We measure our corn in bushels, and there's 56 pounds per bushel.
Ah, okay. And about approximately how many bushels will you get off of this field, or per acre?
It's around 180 to 200 if you have a good year.
Wow. So, and remind me, how big is an acre?
An acre is 43,560 square feet, about the size of a football field.
Ah, okay. So, kids at home, if you're going to be watching football this fall, think about that. There could be up to 200 bushels of corn sitting on that football field. Interesting. We've learned a lot today about the 3 different kinds of corn that we grow here in Illinois. So the next time you're enjoying a bowl of popcorn, a delicious ear of sweet corn, or some corn chips, think about all the different types of farmers that support this wonderful crop that we grow here in our state. And remember that it all started with one little seed. See you next time.